Hello, my name is Annie and I work at Hubsan USA Corp here in Los Angeles, California. Today we are shooting you a video about what the differences are between the original H501S and the H501S-S. Now, as you know, the release of the -S or the SS/SS has been fairly recent. Just came out in February, and now that people have gotten different ones in different types of packaging, they are wondering, like a lot of people are wondering, how do I know if it's an SS I got or an original S I've got? Well, I'm going to cover that today along with some other things that you will absolutely need to know, especially if you got an SS, so that you don't run the chance of bricking your quad with the wrong firmware or screwing your quad up with the wrong hardware either, just in case something goes wrong and you believe you have to make a replacement. So let's get started. First things first, we are going to be separating the packaging, or at least making it the SS distinct in terms of packaging from now on. The SS, which is the white one here on my right, will be distinguished by the fact that it will now only be produced in cardboard packaging. If you get a SS in plastic packaging, chances are there was a mix-up, or perhaps a retailer had swapped out a drone for a different box. That's always possible. So now with that over with, I'm going to get started with the functionalities of both drones. Functionalities of both drones are going to be the same. The S and the SS will both have GPS hold, altitude hold, follow me, headless mode, and also the ability to do H501 waypoints. If you have the H501 Android touchscreen transmitter, you will be able to do waypoints if you have the receiver firmware 1.2.16 and quite possibly the flight control firmware 1.5.25. Do keep in mind though, if you have the advanced transmitter, not to do this, because we have found glitches with the compatibility in terms of the advanced transmitter and the 1.5.25 flight control firmware, as well as the 1.2.16 receiver firmware. So I actually recommend the waypoint function more for people who have the standard transmitter, just so that they don't have to run into, you guys don't have to run into as many glitches when it comes to firmware compatibility. Second thing I would like to mention is, you guys have all been asking about the orbiting function. The orbiting function will now be available for both drones, as long as, if you have the H501S transmitter, which is shown here, you have the firmware version 1.1.6 or above. The second is, if you have the standard transmitter, which I do not have here unfortunately right now, you will have to have the transmitter firmware 4.2.19 or above in order to use the orbiting function. However, if you have both transmitter firmwares, then you should be set to go. If you have any other questions regarding firmware, then please email us at service@hubsan.com for any firmware questions. We highly advise you do that before you even think about upgrading. If your drone is flying well, don't upgrade at all. Please don't, because if you do, you run the chance of messing up an already good configuration. Firmware upgrades are only for patching up errors in the drone's flight that are firmware applicable. Okay? Now, speaking of firmware, this is one of the key things you cannot cross with an original H501S and the new H501SS. The H501SS has its own set of firmware. I'm going to show you guys right now. I'm going to turn both of them on. Again, the one on the left is the black one is the H501S, and the one on the right here, the white, is the H501SS. So I'm going to show you the firmware for the H501S first. There she goes. Okay, so for those of you who already know how to enter the main menu, this should be easy for you. But for those of you who don't, on the advanced transmitter, you hold down the enter key, you hold down the left arrow down, and then you hold down the enter key. And then you should enter the main menu right here. Now you're going to use the up and down arrows to navigate the menu. As you can tell, there's an arrow right here that points. You go all the way down to show version and press enter. And you should see the firmware pop up. You can tell that over here in red, you see the H501S head, the drone part of the firmware. This H501A is the transmitter. If we go onto the lines in red, then you have the H501S version 1.2.12 and version 1.1.23. If you have a H501S, you will find that this will only start with an H501S. There will not be an additional S there. However, here on the double S, and have Kevin come on over. So again, you're gonna hold the throttle down to its bottom point and hold the enter key, and you're gonna go down all the way to show version, press enter. Now you see there's a 501S S, double S. Hopefully that shows up on the camera real well because the lighting is a little weird. But always, if you have a double S or if you have an original S, never cross these firmwares. You can tell that the numbers are even different too. The version 2.1.16 and the version 1.1.31. This right here in the center, the 2.1.16, is the double S's motherboard or receiver firmware, okay? And here, the version 1.1.31 is going to be the flight control firmware for the double S and the H501A. As for the regular S, the numbers were completely different. They were written on their receiver version or motherboard version 1.2.16 and or 1.2.12 and the flight control firmware version 1.2.23. So make sure you don't cross those firmwares, please, or else you're gonna brick guy the quad. And that's not a pretty sight. It's correctable, but it's a bit of an inconvenience. You're better off just not doing it to begin with. So that's the PSA for the firmware. Now, as for why the firmware is different, why, you may ask? Because the hardware in here is different as well. The double S here on my right hand side in white is going to have the motherboard that comes with the H501A. Yes, you heard that correctly. We made a few schematic changes that will allow for better performance and cleaner performance, hopefully, as the quad gets pushed out more and more. There's also a very different camera or video module here at the bottom of the drone's belly. I'll show you more into that later. Basically, don't cross the original S motherboard or the original S video module with the video module and the motherboard that comes in the double S, or else you're going to get some major problems. They're not compatible with each other. So yeah, in order to basically, if you wanted to, I suppose you could completely swap out an S's video module and main board with the double S's, but you might as well just get a double S if you can, or just not touch it at all if it's already functioning well, you know. So that's the hardware part. Now, as for the people who have already gotten a double S in non-cardboard packaging, or just have no idea what a double S is and want to find out if you have a double S or not, if you haven't checked the firmware yet, you should have been able to notice that we have two different labels most of the time on any type of 501S or double S quad. I'm going to turn this around here. Notice that there's a C rating label and as well as a square barcode. If you look at the square barcode, at the bottom of the barcode, you should be able to see a small, tiny little writing that starts with an H501S. This is the S, the original S, I mean, so it'll start with an H501S. Okay? However, if you are to have a double S, take a look at the writing down beneath the square barcode here. It starts with an H501S-S. Alrighty? So that is one of the biggest differences in terms of labeling wise on the body of the quad. There's also another difference, and it's not going to be shown here. Hopefully they'll edit this in. Notice that the C rating labels on both quads are going to be the same. However, on some double S quads, you will find that the label is going to be much bigger. So it's going to cover the entire butt of the quad, so to speak. So it's going to be that big. Quite literally covering just the entire hind area of this belly right here. Okay. Another difference? Well, I'm going to show you right now. If for some weird arse reason you do not have any labels, perhaps you bought it secondhand or whatnot. Another way you're going to be able to tell is if you peek right through the belly slits, you can see the internal video module for both either the S or the double S. The S is only going to have a small metallic plate, or even better, a blue one that doesn't even reach the first horizontal slit here. You might even be able to see past the little module here to the green of the main video board. If you have either one of those, congratulations, you have an S. Original S. However, if you have a double S, there's only going to be one configuration in the belly, and I hope the camera can pick this up. If you look into the belly slits and go all the way down, you're going to see this long old metallic plate that goes all the way down to the second set of horizontal belly slits here. It's long, it's metallic, it looks almost white, gray, silver, and there's going to be basically no differences besides that in any double S quad. I know for the S you have both the metallic and the blue plate, but for the double S you're only going to have the singular long metallic plate reaching all the way down to the horizontal slit here. So yeah, that is another way of telling. Perhaps if you have the double S or the original S. Another way, you can take the quad apart, but I wouldn't recommend it. Not when you have all these indications here. So yeah, my time here is over because I've already gone through all the significant differences between the double S and the S. Hope you guys found the video informative, especially you first-time users who might not have even been in the drone hobby industry for very long. Hopefully this will deconfuse things for you. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below or email us at service@hubsan.com. Thank you very much. See you next time.